Hey guys, tonight we time travel, quietly of course, to a version of America you've probably never seen on a map. You're stepping into Cahokia, a sprawling, bustling, corn-scented metropolis that thrived where modern-day Illinois now naps beneath highways and farmland. The year, roughly 1100 CE. Cahokia is the biggest city north of Mexico, and well, you're not exactly ready for it. You're wearing sneakers and a synthetic hoodie, and that alone might already be an issue. You step into a plaza flanked by dozens of enormous earthen mounds. Think pyramids, but gently sloped and covered in grass, not gold. People, tanned, purposeful, and clearly busy, move past you with baskets, fishnets, and toddlers who somehow all seem calmer than you. This place hums. There's the chatter of bartering, the pounding of corn into mush, and a distant drumming that's either musical or mildly threatening. Smoke curls up from cooking fires, carrying with it the unmistakable scent of roasted squash and something you sincerely hope isn't raccoon. A child stares at your sunglasses like they're ancient alien relics. To be fair, you are the alien here. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Go ahead, drop your location and the time where you're watching this. I love seeing where these sleepy journeys reach. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You trudge forward, trying to blend in. It doesn't work. You're taller than most people here, somehow still sunburned, and you're staring at things too long. Especially the mound that locals are casually climbing, like it's just a natural part of the landscape. You try to follow, stepping onto the hard-packed earth. It's a workout. No handrails, no shade, no water bottle in sight. At the top, you see the whole city. Wooden homes, gardens, granaries, and ceremonial plazas fanned out in a planned grid that'd put some modern suburbs to shame. Historians still argue whether Cahokia had a ruling elite, or if leadership was more council-based. But one thing's clear. Someone told you not to go up that particular mound. That someone is now gesturing wildly from below. Oops. You scramble down, dust-covered and apologetic. A local woman offers you a bundle of something leafy and fragrant. You sniff it, trying to look wise. It's probably meant to cleanse your aura, or maybe it's deodorant. You rub it under your arms, just to be safe. She chuckles. Great, you've made a friend. Or a future witness. By now, your senses are overloaded. The air is thick with humidity and the sounds of thousands of people living their lives without flush toilets, phones, or the faintest clue what a Wi-Fi password is. Why? Oh, you read painfully aware that your legs are getting eaten alive by bugs, and there's a weird dampness under your collar that feels less like sweat and more like a local microclimate. You wander toward a shaded area where several men are carving something into a huge flat stone. You peer closer. It's a calendar, or a cosmological chart, or possibly a complicated schedule for religious festivals. One of the men looks at you and speaks in a low, musical dialect that's utterly unfamiliar. You smile and nod like an idiot. He points at the sky, then the mound behind you, then at a series of sticks planted in a circle nearby. You nod again. Yes, sticks. Very stick-like. You're ruining this. A nearby child mimics your walk with exaggerated knee lifts. You try not to laugh. You fail. Everyone turns. You're now that weird person who thinks everything is funny. In a culture where social harmony is prized and every action has spiritual weight, you are essentially a living, breathing faux pas. And still, the city amazes you. There are over 120 mounds, some used for rituals, others for burial, and a few possibly for housing the elite. You overhear fragments of trade talk. Flint from distant plains, shells from the Gulf, copper from the Great Lakes. Cahokia is no backwater. It's the beating heart of a continent-spanning network of exchange. A fact you should keep in mind the next time you try to pay for anything here with a crumpled granola bar wrapper. Spoiler, they're not impressed. You sit down to rest near a small garden patch, where a woman is carefully tending to beans climbing up sunflowers. It's ingenious. Corn, beans, and squash grow together, each helping the other survive. It's called the Three Sisters Planting Method. And no, you wouldn't have invented it. You barely keep basil alive in your windowsill. She offers you something to chew. Dried bison, maybe, or possibly a plant root with secret medicinal properties. You accept, chew, immediately regret everything. It tastes like wood chips marinated in regret. But you smile through it because you've learned at least one thing. When someone gives you something in Cahokia, it's rude not to at least pretend you like it. A group passes by carrying a bundle of sticks adorned with feathers and bells. It's either a musical performance, a religious procession, or a parade of professional shamans. You don't ask. You just step aside and try not to sneeze. By sundown, you're already sunburned, hungry, and several layers sweatier than you thought humanly possible. You slump against the base of a mound and try to collect your thoughts. The people here may not have had iron tools or written language in the way we think of it, but their social systems, engineering, and spiritual life are astonishingly advanced. And you, dear listener, with your soft shoes and softer social skills, are already starting to unravel. But don't worry, we've only just begun. You're woken before dawn by a sound that can only be described as aggressively wooden. A deep, rhythmic thudding echoes through the misty, pre-dawn air. It's not a war drum. It's not a dance. It's a wake-up call. You rub your eyes and squint through the soft haze hanging over Cahokia. Across the plaza, people are gathering in a ring of tall, evenly spaced wooden posts. This is Woodhenge, a solar calendar made of red cedar, aligned with celestial events. You stumble closer, trying not to trip over your own feet or anyone else's ceremonial pet. The sun begins to rise. A shaft of golden light slides perfectly between two poles, landing on a distant mound, like it was planned, because it was planned hundreds of years ago by people who charted the skies with more precision than you use to schedule your dentist appointments. People murmur prayers or just stand quietly. You try to do the same, but your phone buzzes and you instinctively grab for it. Just muscle memory. No signal, obviously. Someone glares. You stuff it into your sock. The ceremony continues. Someone begins chanting. A child mimics it softly, and you notice others joining in, their breath rising visibly in the cold morning air. The sound isn't loud, but it fills the air like dew. You stand still, and for just a moment, you feel it. Time slowing, stretching across centuries, wrapping around the posts. In perfect silence, then you sneeze. Loudly. No one says anything, but someone hands you a bundle of herbs to sniff, probably to balance your energy, or expel some evil spirit you sneezed into the cosmos. It smells like licorice and dirt. You sniff politely. You try to make sense of this sunrise ritual. Historians still argue. Was it strictly astronomical, or also a social clock? Maybe a marker for planting, feasting, or spiritual resets. One theory, it aligned the community emotionally with the movements of the universe, which is more than your Apple Watch has ever done. As the light shifts, the crowd begins to break apart. You think you've survived your first ritual, but then a local gestures toward you, frowns, and points at your shoes. Apparently, stomping around a sacred space in synthetic rubber soles is the Cahokian equivalent of tracking mud into a yoga studio. You remove your shoes awkwardly and hide them behind a log. Your feet immediately regret this. Now barefoot, you try to blend in again, tiptoeing around, pretending to examine nearby carvings, while your soles collect splinters. The plaza is alive now. Fires are rekindled. Cooking begins, and the smell of something bubbling in clay pots drifts through the air. It's not pancakes, but your stomach growls anyway. Nearby, a man is carefully painting his face with red ochre, looking extremely focused. You try to mimic him, using a smudge of ash from your sleeve. You just end up looking like you fell into a barbecue pit. A child sees you and giggles. You smile, but they're probably laughing at you. Not with you. You join a cluster of people, carrying long poles over their shoulders. Maybe it's a social group. Maybe it's early morning construction. You realize too late. You've joined a work crew, with no union, no coffee break, and no understanding of what you're actually doing. Someone hands you a digging stick and points toward a shallow pit. You begin poking at it. very unhelpfully. The person sighs, takes it back, and demonstrates the correct way. Drive it into the earth with your foot, while balancing it like a pogo stick. You nod. Like this makes sense. It does not. By the time the sun is fully up, you're sweaty, sore, and have earned a blister the size of a corn kernel. Someone hands you a gourd, filled with what you hope is water. It's not. It's some kind of fermented beverage that tastes like a mix of apple cider, riverbank, and regret. You drink anyway, because saying no in this culture might be seen as rude, or worse, ungrateful. You overhear someone explaining the day's labor rotation. Different groups are rebuilding a crumbling mound wall, weaving reed mats, and hauling logs for a new post alignment. It all runs with quiet coordination, like a beehive, without the buzzing. No written orders, no shouting supervisors, just rhythm, memory, and mutual obligation. And you, the wobbly-footed outsider, are messing with the rhythm. Your back aches, your arms tingle, your feet are now the same color as the ground. Someone nearby is whittling a small wooden effigy of what appears to be you, or maybe a bird. Hard to tell. Either way, it's not flattering. Eventually, the work pause comes. A low whistle from a carved bone tube signals rest. You collapse like a burlap sack into the grass, heart pounding, like the ceremonial drums. You now understand, more than you'd like. Around you, children play with hand-woven balls. Elders chat beneath a canopy of smoke and hanging herbs. A young couple giggles, decorating each other's faces with powdered shell pigment. You glance at your reflection in a puddle and realize you now resemble a very tired, very confused dirt ghost. A woman offers you a small carved pendant, gesturing toward the sun. A charm, maybe? A joke? A subtle way of saying, you're going to need help today. You nod respectfully and tie it around your neck. It smells faintly of cedar and river mud. Honestly, not the worst thing you've worn this week. And so, as the sun climbs higher and the plaza thins, you limp toward the scent of breakfast, wondering how people function without coffee, air conditioning, or the ability to lie on the floor dramatically while binge-watching cooking shows. You've made it through sunrise. Mid-morning in Cahokia means food, and you're ravenous. The good news? You've stumbled upon what appears to be the city's version of brunch. The bad news? Nothing on offer remotely resembles a bagel, a croissant, or even a sad granola bar from your backpack, which you tried to trade earlier for a bowl of stew, and were politely, yet firmly, rejected. You follow your nose to an open area dotted with low clay hearths and woven baskets overflowing with squash, beans, dried fish, and something you strongly suspect is wild onion. You hover awkwardly at the edge, trying to decide if this is a communal meal or someone's very personal picnic. A man waves you over and hands you a bowl of thick, steaming mush. You thank him in English. He blinks slowly and walks away. The mush is warm, sticky, and, surprise, absolutely delicious. It's made from nixtamalized corn, a process so clever it sounds like alchemy, by soaking maize in a lye solution made from wood ash. The Cahokians unlock nutrients your modern supplement aisle has been shouting about for years. You're eating history, and it tastes like comfort food. You sit cross-legged in the grass, bowl balanced in your lap. A few other diners eye you, with a mix of amusement and curiosity. One nudges a friend and gestures toward your necklace. You touch it nervously, wondering if you've just marked yourself as new in town or a willing volunteer. You'll find out soon enough. As you eat, you watch nearby women pounding seeds and slicing roots with bone tools. Some are weaving baskets that could double as architectural features, tight, patterned, perfectly geometric. Others are drying fish along low wooden racks, their hands moving with a rhythm passed down through generations. You feel yourself slow down, not just physically, but mentally. It's oddly soothing to watch things happen on their own time, without deadlines or phone notifications. Just as you begin to relax, a sudden shout breaks through the calm. Two boys race by, chased by an older teen, wielding what looks like a lacrosse stick. Turns out, it is a kind of lacrosse, though the Cahokian version is rougher, rowdier, and taken very seriously. You're invited to play. You pretend to have a mysterious leg cramp. They seem relieved. Instead, you observe. The players form teams quickly and begin hurling a ball made from tightly wound hide across a dirt field. No protective gear, no timeouts, just speed, agility, and a surprising amount of yelling. At one point, a player leaps to intercept the ball and lands in a perfect shoulder roll. You would have shattered your clavicle 3 times over attempting that. Historians still argue over the exact rules of these games and whether they served purely recreational, diplomatic, or spiritual purposes. What's clear is this. For Cahokians, sport wasn't just a pastime. It was performance, ceremony, and maybe even a form of community therapy. You inch away as the game intensifies, looking for shade. You find a patch beneath a lean-to, where an elderly woman is calmly shaping pottery. She smiles at you and gestures toward a chunk of grayish clay. You take a seat. She hands you a flat tool and a vague sense of trust. You try your hand at it. You fail spectacularly. Your bowl collapses into itself, like a dying jellyfish. The woman giggles, takes the mess from your hands, and turns it somehow into a recognizable shape. She adds tiny notches around the rim. With practiced fingers, you mimic her movements, more carefully this time. It's meditative. For 5 glorious minutes, you are one with the mud. Then your stomach gurgles. Loudly, she raises an eyebrow. You smile sheepishly and pat your stomach. In International Sign Language for delicious corn mush. She nods and returns to her work. You take this as your cue to stand and stretch. Your back pops like bubble wrap. A small group nearby is preparing to leave the plaza, heading toward the forested edge of the settlement. One man wears a carved wooden mask, shaped like a hawk's beak. Another carries what appears to be a bag of turtle shells. You are either about to witness a deeply spiritual ritual or the world's most confusing jazz band. You follow at a respectful distance, tripping only twice on tree roots and once on your own self-doubt. Soon, the trees thicken and the air cools. The sounds of the plaza fade into birdsong and the occasional splash of something very much alive. In a nearby stream, the group settles into a clearing, arranging stones in a circle and placing objects, feathers, bones, shells. At its center, they begin to chant, low and rhythmic. One begins shaking a gourd rattle. The hawk masked man stands still, arms lifted slightly. You stay very still, heart thudding. Are you intruding? Are you welcome? Is that a ceremonial skunk? No, just a squirrel. You watch quietly as the group moves through their ritual. You can't understand the words, but the tone is unmistakable. Respect, offering, connection. You feel a twinge of awe, the kind that bubbles up when you witness something so human. It bypasses explanation. Here, surrounded by symbols and ceremony, you begin to see what life in Cahokia was built upon. Not just food, and labor, and games, but story, reverence, and a shared sense of the sacred. As they finish, one of the group turns and hands you a smooth, dark stone. It's been worn by water, possibly engraved by hand, possibly just naturally shaped like a fish. Either way, it's a gift. You bow slightly in thanks. They nod. You pocket the stone. You also pocket the moment. Soft light, green leaves, murmured prayers, as something to remember, something worth holding on to. You walk back to the plaza slowly. Your steps drag, but your breath has evened. For now, at least. You're full, not just of food, but of something stranger and older, an almost reluctant admiration for a way of life that asked more of its people, but maybe also gave more in return. And just like that, you've survived morning in medieval America, barefoot, sun-dazed, slightly fermented, but alive. The midday sun hangs like a lazy eye above Cahokia, soaking the plaza in golden heat. Your feet, still naked, and thoroughly unprepared for this level of natural engagement, are starting to resemble something between beef jerky and regret. You find a patch of shade under a stilted granary and collapse like a tired cat, hoping nobody assigns you another task before you've rehydrated mentally and physically. But rest isn't really part of the program. A young woman approaches, holding a woven mat and something that looks suspiciously like a toolkit. She gestures for you to follow. You do, because saying no doesn't seem like an option, and you're curious. In that self-destructive, how bad could it be kind of way, you're led to a platform near a mound's base, where others are already seated, hands busy with sinew, feathers, and sticks. You've been drafted into a crafting group, possibly for public service, possibly for ceremony prep, possibly because someone decided. You look like you needed a project. You sit. You're handed an unfinished pair of sandals. Ah, a hint. Someone has noticed your tragic, blistered state and responded with handmade footwear. That's oddly kind. But also, you're expected to make them yourself. Less kind. You fumble with the reeds and sinew. A woman next to you, clearly amused, leans over and demonstrates the correct knot technique. It's a bit like tying shoelaces underwater. While blindfolded, after a few tries, you produce something vaguely sandal-adjacent. It squeaks when you walk, but it's better than bleeding. Around you, the talk is casual, rhythmic. People share stories, some mythic, others mundane. You catch a tale about a man who dreamt of a white bison and then disappeared. Someone else laughs about a neighbor who tried to ferment fish in a hollowed-out log and accidentally created the world's worst cologne. You smile. You're not fluent, but tone and laughter are universal. Historians still argue whether Cahokians had a strict class structure or a more fluid, task-based social order. The archaeological evidence, different grave goods, some palatial homes, layers of mound burial, suggests complexity, but not full-blown monarchy. What's clear is that tasks like crafting, farming, and ritual were shared more than enforced. Status existed, but everyone, it seems, had to pull their weight, including you, the honorary intern. You're moved to another group next, this one dealing with food prep. Again, at least this time, it doesn't involve chasing live animals or pretending you enjoy pickled squash. You're handed a bowl of dry kernels and shown how to grind them using a stone mano and matate. You start grinding. 10 seconds in, you deeply resent every tortilla you've ever taken for granted. Your triceps scream. Your wrists crackle. A small child next to you grinds twice as fast, with half your body weight. You smile and try not to cry. Someone offers you a drink. Thankfully, water this time, stored in a decorated gourd that smells faintly of smoke and herbs. You sip. It's cool and earthy. You resist the urge to hoard it, like a Victorian miser. With your modest, grinding contribution accepted, you're ushered over to a group constructing a temporary shelter. Wooden poles are arranged in a dome, and others are lashing crossbeams together with fiber cords. This, apparently, is how families expand their homes, not through Home Depot trips, but communal effort. You help with the lashing. Sort of. Mostly. You hold things, while others do the real work. Still, someone pats you on the back. Encouragement, or relief you haven't broken anything yet. You pause to look around. The scale of Cahokia hits you again. Not just its size, but its orchestration. Dozens of mounds rise around you, each with a function. Some are homes for elite families. Others are platforms for ritual or governance. There's no grid layout like in later cities, but a strange harmony exists. The placement of plazas, the flow of walkways, the line of sight to sacred with circles, all designed for life to feel ordered, even meaningful. You hear a faint drumming in the distance. Slow, almost like a heartbeat. You follow the sound. Sandals squeaking apologetically in a shaded clearing. Near the edge of the city, a group is gathered around a low table, covered in clay figures. They're playing a game, possibly gambling, definitely intense. You're invited to join, and because your muscles need a break from hauling and knot tying, you accept. The rules are explained through hand gestures and example moves. There's some kind of point system, some betting with beads, and a lot of feigned shock. When someone loses a round, you lose, repeatedly, but they let you stay. And soon, you understand the rhythm. More than a pastime, it's a way to test wits, blow off steam, and build rapport. Someone slaps you on the back after a particularly clumsy move. You think that's a compliment. Maybe. Back in the plaza, the sun has begun to lower slightly, turning the packed earth a warm ochre. Shadows stretch from mound sides. Like fingers, you feel adjusted. Not comfortable exactly, but no longer completely alien. Your hands are sore, your feet blistered, your back sticky, with sweat and wood shavings. But you've joined in. Someone hands you a clay figurine, one you clearly did not make. It's shaped like a bird, tiny and precise. You look around to see who gave it to you, but no one claims it. A gift, a thank you, a signal you're not entirely unwelcome. You tuck it beside the fish stone. In your pouch, your sandals squeak again as you stand. So far, you've survived labor, games, and social confusion. You've worn 4 types of dirt and eaten 3 kinds of corn. You're sore in muscles you didn't know you had, but somehow you're still standing. Late afternoon brings a change in the air, less heat, more motion. You notice it first in the birds, a sudden, noisy shift in their patterns above the trees. Then in the people, activity picks up, but not in a chaotic way. It's as if everyone has a mental checklist titled Things to Do Before Sundown. And you, unfortunately, are being added to several of those checklists. You're led to a long, narrow building made from wattle and daub. Its thatched roof, sloping like the back of a tired old horse. Inside, it's dim but cool. The scent of damp earth and faintly smoked herbs clings to the walls. You realize this is a kind of healing house, or maybe a spa, if the spa also occasionally doubled as an emergency room. A woman with a face like worn leather gestures toward a mat. You sit. She pulls out a long bone needle and some plant fibers. You nearly faint, but she's not here to stitch you up. Thankfully, you haven't bled yet. She's demonstrating how medicinal sutures were made. The fiber is tough, spun from agave or nettle, and the needle is shaped with surprising delicacy. She motions to a clay jar, which you open. Inside, dried toads. Nope. Just nope. Still, you lean in. She crushes the toads with dried bark and mixes them into a paste. The smell is assertive. You smile politely and scoot an inch backward. Apparently, this concoction is used for fevers, or possibly curses. Historians still argue whether these medicinal methods were rooted in strictly empirical observation or a blend of herbalism and spiritual intervention. What's clear is Cahokians took health seriously, and their pharmacies came with legs and scales. You're passed along to another corner, where poultices are being prepared. You're handed a blob of mashed roots and shown how to smear it onto a cotton cloth. You make a mess. No one is surprised. A young man nearby offers you a drink made from boiled willow bark. You recognize it instantly. The precursor to aspirin. You nod sagely. Trying to pretend this makes you part of the local medical guild. The bitter taste wipes the smug right off your tongue. While you grimace through your herbal tea, an older healer approaches with a small animal skull hung around her neck. She places her hands near your temples and begins to hum. You freeze. What's the etiquette here? Tip her? Ask for a receipt? She finishes, presses a warm palm to your forehead, and nods. You've apparently been blessed, or diagnosed, or maybe both. Either way, your headache has backed off in fear. Outside the healing house, you squint against the light. The sun is definitely leaning west now, stretching the shadows of the mounds like long black arms. You're pointed toward another building, lower, broader, filled with bundles of reeds and mysterious packets. Inside, it's an old factory bombshell. Dried herbs, fermented fruit, and something smoky linger in the air. You've stumbled into a Cahokian apothecary meets kitchen hybrid, where ingredients are gathered, sorted, and either eaten or applied to injuries, depending on your vibe that day. A woman shows you how to tie a bundle of sage. You immediately poke yourself with a stalk. She hands you a safer task, sorting dried berries from their stems. You're slightly more successful. You ask, mostly with gestures, about the smoky stuff in the corner. She leads you to it. It's black drink, brewed from Yupon holly leaves and stronger than most espresso shots. You try a sip and immediately forget how words work. It's bitter, energizing, and historically accurate. Cahokians consume this in rituals and high-level meetings. You imagine trying to drink this during your next Zoom call. That would be chaos. Feeling slightly more alert, and also slightly concerned about your heart rate, you help stack clay jars along the wall. Some contain oils, others ash. A few hold powders that shimmer oddly in the light. You resist the urge to sneeze. Then a horn sounds, low and hollow, like a conch shell's cousin. People begin moving toward the central plaza. You're swept along, adrenaline returning, even though you're not sure why. You clutch your little pouch of trinkets. If anything goes down, maybe you can bribe someone with a bird figurine. The crowd parts as a small group appears near the base of Monk's Mound. At their center, someone in ceremonial dress. Feathers arc from their headdress. Their tunic is patterned with shells and dyed thread. You can't tell if they're a priest, a chief, or both. Possibly someone inventing influencer culture centuries early. A hush falls over the crowd. The figure lifts their hands and begins to speak, not loudly, but clearly. The words drift through the air like incense. You understand none of it, yet feel the weight of it all the same. This is not a show. This is guidance, or prophecy, or community reminder time. Maybe all three. They step aside, and two others come forward with baskets. From where you stand, you catch glimpses. Dried tobacco leaves, shaped stones, bundles of dyed fibers. Offerings. Not flashy or dramatic. Personal. The baskets are placed near a carved post. Then everyone bows their heads. You follow suit. It feels right. When heads lift again, the sun is lower and the mood lighter. Conversations resume. Children dart out of hiding. Somewhere, music begins, soft flutes, bone whistles, and a beat you feel in your chest more than here. You exhale. That was intense, and moving, and confusing, but mostly moving. You wonder a little, caught in the golden hour glow of Cahokia. The marketplace reopens in a gentle sort of bustle. Traders display goods, river pearls, obsidian blades, woven sashes bright with natural dye. You browse like a tourist with no cash, nodding appreciatively, resisting the urge to ask for prices in dollars. You realize, for the first time today, you're not being stared at quite so hard. You've become background, a face among faces. Still strange, but maybe not unwelcome. And that, in a city of thousands, is no small thing. The sky now shifts from golden syrup to dusky plum, and the wind carries a coolness that wasn't there earlier. Cahokia begins to settle, but it doesn't sleep. Not really. Like a cat napping with one eye open, the city shifts into its evening rhythm. And you, still squeaking faintly in your ill-tied sandals, are about to meet nightfall the Cahokian way. A young boy gestures for you to follow, darting between weaving stalls and cooking fires. You hesitate, just long enough to question your life choices, then trail after him. He leads you to a wide circle of cleared ground, rimmed with low logs, all facing inward. People are gathering, forming a spiral from youngest to eldest. At the center is a smoldering pit, more ceremonial than practical, its smoke curling upward like a question mark. You sit, tucking your legs beneath you. A woman nearby offers you a flat cake, wrapped in leaves. It's warm and faintly sweet. You nibble it slowly, letting the taste anchor you. Then, the stories begin. First, it's an elder with braids like tree roots, speaking in slow, measured cadences. You don't catch every word, but the rhythm lulls you into understanding. It's about a turtle, the stars, and a great flood. You catch phrases like skyborn children and river teeth. It's myth and memory, braided into one. Boring? Never. But definitely sleep-friendly. Soon, others chime in. A young woman tells a tale of a warrior who tried to fight a thunderbird and ended up turned into moss. A boy dramatizes a story with sound effects and wild flailing, knocking over a cup. He grins as everyone laughs, including you. The fire pops gently, sending sparks skyward, and there you are, half full of story bread and river myths, blinking against the dark. Historians still argue whether these stories were fixed cultural canon or ever-evolving communal memory. The oral tradition was flexible by design, a living archive, shaped by voice and season. What's consistent in archaeological records is the presence of story circles, teaching tools, and ceremonial recounting spaces, all suggesting stories were as essential as food. Your eyelids dip, just slightly, but the moment shifts again. Someone pulls out a rattle, made from a dried gourd, and a flute joins in. It's not a concert, it's just background, like nature itself has decided to accompany the night. You move with the crowd again, this time toward the outskirts of the city. You're not sure why, until you see them. Timber circles. From a distance, they look like minimalist sculptures, but up close, the full scale of Cahokia's Woodhenge takes shape. Giant red cedar posts, arranged in a perfect ring. You step between them, like walking into a giant's clock. Your guide, now an older man, with a calm, dusk-soft voice, traces his fingers along one post, explaining through motion and the occasional word that this ring tells time. Solstices, equinoxes, celestial happenings. You glance up at the first shy stars. You imagine the ancient planners placing these posts with nothing but sky charts, intuition, and deep observation. No apps. No apps at all. The horror. Then he points at a post, aligned with the setting sun. Nodding. You squint. Sure enough, the sun's last ember touches the top of the wood, just so. It's eerie, beautiful, slightly magical. Even if your sandals are still squeaking, you leave the circle quietly, not wanting to disturb the geometry of it. The others do too, slipping back toward campfires and shadows. A woman waves you over to a structure you hadn't noticed before. Round, low, partially sunken. She gestures downward. You descend into what you assume is a sweat lodge. Inside, dim, warm, and damp, a central pit holds glowing stones. A bundle of herbs sits nearby, ready to be sprinkled. You're warned, with a quick gesture, not to talk. You sit cross-legged. The heat swells slowly. The scent of sage and something citrusy fills the air. Someone dribbles water onto the stones. Steam hisses. Your skin prickles. This, you realize, is not torture. It's release. You feel every sore muscle loosen. Your mind quiets. For the first time since arriving, you stop mentally planning an escape route. You are just there, a soft, sore creature, in a warm hollow, breathing with strangers, who are suddenly not so strange. Later, cooled and calm, you emerge from the lodge and walk a little slower. The city has dimmed. Firelight glints here and there, like the blinking eyes of contented animals. You're led to a simple sleeping platform, covered with woven mats and animal skins. You ease down with a groan and half a laugh. Above you, stars. So many stars. You think briefly about Cahokia's eventual decline. No one really knows why it faded. Climate shifts, overpopulation, politics. Historians still argue. But none of that matters now. Right now, the city lives. In movement, story, wood, fire, and faintly medicinal foot balm. You close your eyes. The night air is full of chirps, flutes, and one persistent cricket near your ear. Tomorrow, there might be more corn to grind, or rituals to observe, or sandals to repair. But for now, you've lasted through your first Cahokian night. The first thing you hear is birdsong, not the polite, distant kind that filters in through a window. This is in your face, unapologetic birdsong. Chirps, coos, and what sounds suspiciously like a bird arguing with itself in two tones. You open your eyes to a sky that's pale gold at the edges, and a thin mist drifting over the grass, like it hasn't decided whether to stay or float away. You're stiff. Your back informs you that Cahokia mattresses are more theory than comfort. But still, no wild animals dragged you away. No strange ceremonial wake-up calls. Just a little dew on your cheek, and a vague craving for coffee that absolutely does not exist here. You sit up slowly, brushing off bits of leaf. Nearby, the first fires are being rekindled. A woman stokes the coals with practiced ease, blowing gently until flames whisper upward. A few children pass by, carrying baskets, already chattering. You, on the other hand, shuffle like a cryptid, just learning how legs work. Today, you're assigned to a task that's equal parts impressive and exhausting, helping construct part of a new mound. Now, before you get too excited, this doesn't mean designing temples or carving mystical patterns into stone. It means dirt. Glorious, endless dirt. You're handed a basket made of tightly woven reeds, still damp from the river. It smells faintly like mud and miracles. Your job is to scoop up dirt, carry it across a makeshift path, and deposit it where directed, by a supervisor who could probably build a pyramid single-handedly. While judging your posture, the work begins. Scoop, lift, walk, dump, repeat. The baskets aren't heavy at first, but by the fourth trip, you're convinced they're slowly gaining weight out of spite. Still, the process is oddly rhythmic. People around you hum. Some joke. Others work in near silence, eyes focused on the task. You realize this isn't just construction. It's ceremony, communal labor that transforms the land and connects generations. Historians still debate whether Cahokian mound building was purely religious or also deeply political. The answer, of course, is yes. In societies like this, the spiritual and the social aren't separate channels. They're the same river, just different currents. After an hour, your arms are jelly. A kind old man notices your wobbly knees and offers you a water gourd. You thank him, with the universal look of someone who nearly passed out from dirt-based enthusiasm. As you sip, he points to a cluster of smaller mounds nearby. He mimes shapes, outlines with his hands the foundations of homes, council houses, and even what looks like a sports field. You blink, and then it hits you. Cahokia wasn't just a city. It was a carefully choreographed stage. Every mound, every path, every building, aligned with sun, stars, seasons. Nothing here is random. You look up at the rising sun, and back at the mound. This pile of dirt is part of a cosmic blueprint, and your terrible scooping is now officially cosmically significant. You resume your work with slightly more dignity. Later, after a good number of dirt-hauling circuits and some deep calf regrets, you're given a break. A group of teenagers has gathered near the edge of the plaza, where they're preparing for a game. You wander closer. They're setting up for something called chunky, a sport that's part discus, part spear throwing, and all intensity. One player rolls a smooth stone disc across the packed earth, while others hurl spears, aiming to land them where they predict the stone will stop. It sounds simple. It's not. The disc rolls fast, faster than it should, given that it's a rock. The player's spears whistle through the air, thudding into the ground with terrifying accuracy. You quickly decide to stay well behind the action. Dying by chunky is not on your bucket list. A local teen notices your interest and pantomimes an offer. You want to try. You decline, with a smile that says, "I cherish my kneecaps." Still, it's fun to watch. The crowd cheers. The players mock one another with theatrical groans and pretend tantrums. It's like a neighborhood basketball game, but with pointier consequences. The woman from earlier, the one who blessed you near the temple mound, approaches and hands you a handful of roasted seeds. You thank her, unsure if this is a snack or another mystical gesture. Turns out, they're just crunchy and delicious. As the sun climbs, you help set up more elements around the plaza. Poles are hoisted, shade structures woven with leafy branches. You assist a woman creating clay figurines, Small, delicate shapes of animals, birds, and people. One looks a lot like you. It has very wide eyes and bad posture. You laugh, and she laughs too. Nearby, children practice storytelling games. One pretends to be a fox, who tricks a bear out of his winter cave. Another tells a story about a star who got lost and had to borrow fire from the moon. The tales are silly, but strangely wise, like they're carrying truth in disguise. Historians still argue how much of Cahokian education was formal versus experiential. What's clear is that learning here happened everywhere, in games, in work, in stories shared beside drying racks and fire pits. You think about your own schooling and wonder if you'd remember algebra better if it had been taught with animal puppets and roasted squash. By late morning, the scent of cooking thickens the air. Flatbreads warm on stones, berries stew in clay pots. A woman is slicing open squash with a blade made of sharpened bone, so finely crafted it could pass for a modern paring knife. You are handed a hollowed-out gourd, filled with something rich and savory. You take a bite. Sweet potato, duck, and some spice you can't name. It is, without exaggeration, divine. You close your eyes, chewing slowly, as laughter and music drift on the wind. For just a moment, you forget the modern world entirely. There's no phone, no rush, no notifications, just fire, flavor, and the sense that you belong, even if temporarily. And in Cahokia, that's a kind of magic. The sun, now a commanding presence high overhead, casts hard-edged shadows across the packed earth plaza. Heat rises in soft waves, and your already sweaty shirt begins to cling in all the wrong places. Welcome to midday in pre-air conditioning America. You've survived a game of chunky by staying a safe distance away, assisted in symbolic dirt redistribution, and narrowly avoided dying of humility, while observing actual Cahokian craftsmanship. So what now? A tap on your shoulder. A young woman you recognize from the figurine workshop smiles, then gestures with 2 fingers, eyes, then sky. She wants to show you something. You follow. She leads you past clusters of homes, low and round, their thatched roofs curved like overturned baskets. As you walk, you note the subtle details. Pots cooling in shallow water basins, children stringing beads, even a man using what appears to be an obsidian razor to tidy up his beard. Somehow, in this no-shampoo society, he's better groomed than you. Soon, you reach the outskirts, where fields stretch wide, and the dense forest breathes just beyond. She points to the ground. At first, all you see are tall stalks of maize, but then, crouching down, you spot more. Squash vines tangle low to the soil. Bean plants curl up the maize like green serpents, hugging each stalk like a trellis. Ah, the legendary 3 sisters: corn, beans, and squash. A botanical trio that forms a perfectly balanced system. Corn provides the structure. Beans fix nitrogen in the soil. Squash shades the ground, keeping weeds at bay. It's elegant, sustainable, and it predates Whole Foods by about 1,000 years. Historians agree this agricultural method wasn't unique to Cahokia, but it was practiced here with remarkable efficiency. Massive granaries, carbon-dated corn remnants, and pollen records all confirm that this city quite literally grew its greatness. Your guide offers you a fresh bean pod and pantomimes chewing. You oblige. It's crunchy, slightly grassy, and surprisingly satisfying. You pause to look out across the field. Dozens of people are working, some harvesting, others digging irrigation channels, with what look like oversized wooden spatulas. One woman is wearing a hat, made entirely of woven grasses. You consider asking for a tutorial. Then, out of the corner of your eye, movement. A hawk circles above, casting a flickering shadow across the crops. Your guide points, smiles, then taps her own chest, where a pendant shaped like a hawk hangs. Symbol of protection, perhaps, or just personal flair. From the fields, you're led to the forest edge. Tall trees rise like green cathedral spires. The shift in temperature is immediate. Shade blankets you in a cool hush, broken only by birds, and the occasional rustle of squirrel or snake. Here, the woman kneels and begins to gather leaves, roots, bits of bark. She pulls out a small satchel and carefully sorts each item. You're witnessing Cahokian pharmacy in action. One root is chewed for toothaches, another boiled for fevers. A certain leaf, when crushed, repels insects. You rub it all over yourself instantly. This, too, is history. Not the flashy, king stab king kind, but the slow, daily kind. Medicine without microscopes. Healing based on passed down knowledge, shared through mothers and grandmothers. Historians still debate how structured Cahokian medical practice was. Did they have full-time healers? Or did knowledge diffuse through the community? What's certain is that their pharmacopoeia rivaled many so-called advanced civilizations. The woman pauses, holds up a pale gray bulb. She mimics grinding it between her fingers, and then sniffs, wincing. Then she gestures toward you. Sore muscles? You know it, with the enthusiasm of someone who just remembered their entire back exists. She grinds the root against a flat stone, mixes it with something from a small pouch, and applies the result to your neck and shoulders. It smells sharp, like mint and pepper and rain-soaked bark. Afternoon in Cahokia comes with a quiet kind of gravity. The heat slackens, not quite gone, but less urgent. The chatter and movement of the plaza settle into a low hum, like the whole city collectively exhales after a long morning of ceremony, labor, and what might generously be called light exercise in your case. You, however, are not quite off the hook. A man, with a heavy necklace of carved shell, gestures you over. His smile is calm, but clearly means business. He leads you toward a nearby longhouse, where several others are gathering. You suspect this is not a nap invitation. Inside, it's surprisingly cool and dim. Slats in the wall let filtered light cut through smoke, rising from a small, central hearth. Around you, people sit on mats, cross-legged, or with knees tucked beneath them. You follow suit. Try not to groan too loudly, as your sore legs protest. This is a council, not the grand, feathered chieftain kind from movies, but a working, talk-heavy, low-ego group of decision-makers, discussing crop yield estimates, regional disputes, and pigs. Yes, pigs. Specifically, the fact that river traders from another village, possibly farther southeast, have started bringing in semi-domesticated peccaries, small, pig-like animals, known more for chaos than charm. The group debates whether it's worth attempting to keep them. One elder argues they'll uproot maize and bite the children. Another insists they'll make excellent stew. You stifle a laugh, but truthfully, you're impressed. Historians still argue how centralized Cahokian governance actually was. Was there a supreme chief? A council of clans? A rotating system of power? Archaeological clues, like status artifacts buried with certain individuals, suggest some hierarchy. But debates like this, over pigs, and plants, and people, hint at something more collaborative. Perhaps not democracy, but definitely dialogue. Then comes the turn you didn't expect. Your opinion is requested. Sort of. The elder with the shell necklace gestures to you, then to the floor, and grunts something that sounds suspiciously like, "Speak." Several heads turn. You panic. This is your moment. Your big diplomatic debut. You consider standing, but your legs scream, "Bad idea." So you remain seated, clear your throat, and, in a mix of frantic gesturing and desperate logic, mime the pig uprooting the corn and biting your foot. Then you mime crying. Silence. Then laughter. The council erupts. Not mockery, but real, genuine amusement. The elder nods, slaps his knee, and says something you suspect means, "They get it. Congratulations. You've just become a cautionary tale in future agricultural policy." Afterward, you exit the longhouse into the daylight, squinting like a mole. A teenage boy waves you over, then offers a carved object. You take it. It's a little figurine of you, with exaggerated feet, and a pig biting one toe. So that's your legacy. You keep it. Later, You're invited to join a group heading to the river for trade. Not a huge caravan, just a handful of people, with goods strapped to backs and packed into reed baskets. You tag along, hobbling slightly. The journey to the river is uneventful, but once again, you're struck by the sheer vibrancy of the ecosystem. Birds you don't recognize flash among the trees. The air hums with insects, but none seem interested in biting you. Thank you. Weird medicinal leaf goop. At the riverbank, a low-slung canoe bobs lazily. More arrive from upstream. These are traders, some with darker skin, different jewelry, woven fabrics dyed in unfamiliar hues. They speak a language that lilts and rolls. Some wear elaborate ear spools. Others carry parrots on their shoulders, like brightly feathered emissaries of chaos. Goods are displayed without ceremony. Obsidian blades, mica sheets that shimmer like frozen sunlight, and what appears to be an early version of a board game involving pebbles and grid-carved wood. The Cahokians offer corn, salt, and baskets packed with smoked fish. You sit near the water and observe. No shouting, no bargaining in the modern sense, just a kind of mutual curiosity and calm exchange. One man hands over a copper ornament, takes 2 gourds in return. They both nod. Done. Historians still debate how far Cahokia's trade routes extended. Some believe items traveled as far as the Great Lakes and Mesoamerica. Others argue the exchanges were more regional, layered over generations. But the material evidence, shells from the Gulf, stones from the Rockies, suggests an astonishing web of ancient logistics. And here you are, witnessing it unfold. As the sun lowers, casting liquid gold across the river, you're invited to try paddling. The canoe wobbles dangerously under your unfamiliar weight, but a patient elder steadies you. With some effort and a great deal of splashing, you manage to guide the vessel in a slow, sloppy circle. Children cheer, possibly ironically. You wave anyway. On the way back, the baskets are heavier, with gifts and trades. A woman hums a tune you don't recognize. The others join in. The rhythm of walking, the warmth of shared song, and the cooling air wrap around you like a soft, warm blanket. By the time you return to Cahokia proper, the city glows with the kind of orange light that makes even sweat-stained tunics look magical. Fires are being lit. Someone is playing a flute, slow, breathy notes that sound like the sky sighing. And you're tired, ridiculously tired, but also weirdly proud. You helped carry dirt. You made people laugh. You accidentally influenced city policy about pigs. You may be the worst canoe paddler this side of the Mississippi, but you're still here, and you haven't been ritually sacrificed, even once. Night descends slowly, settling over Cahokia like a soft, heavy blanket. The once bustling plaza now glows only with the flicker of countless small fires. Shadows stretch long and merge, wrapping the city in a quiet embrace. You find yourself drawn back toward the great mound, its silhouette a dark mountain, against the star-spangled sky. The air is cooler, laced with the scent of burning wood, and something earthier, perhaps crushed herbs, or smoldering resin. Somewhere nearby, a dog barks, and a child laughs, their voices soft echoes. In the stillness, you move toward a communal gathering spot, where a fire circle has been arranged. People sit in loose clusters, faces illuminated by the golden flicker. You settle on the edge, feeling the ground's warmth seep into your bones. The smell of roasted corn and smoked fish drifts your way, promising a late meal. Tonight, a storyteller takes the floor. She's an elder, her skin etched with fine lines, like ancient tree bark. Her eyes glimmer with quiet mischief. As she begins, the crowd quiets, and the world outside the circle falls away. Her voice is low and steady, weaving tales that mix myth, history, and perhaps a touch of friendly exaggeration. You learn how the sun once played hide-and-seek with the moon, and how the sacred rattlesnake guarded the city's secrets. The story folds around you, like a warm quilt, with just the right balance of mystery and gentle humor. You recall the stories you heard as a child, fairy tales that sometimes scared you awake at night. This is different. Here, the myths are tools, shaping identity, providing meaning, and yes, helping to drift off to sleep. Historians still debate the exact origins of many Cahokian myths, but their role in society is clear. They are threads in a tapestry of belonging. As the tale winds down, someone starts a soft, rhythmic drumbeat. Others join in, with rattles made from turtle shells and dried gourds. The music pulses like a heartbeat, steady and calming. You close your eyes, letting the vibrations wash over you. The warmth of the fire, the gentle hum of voices, the distant call of night birds, all blend into a lullaby for a city that never truly rests. A child tugs at your sleeve, offering a small, woven doll. You accept it, feeling an unexpected pang of connection. Maybe you're not just a visitor here. After all, your thoughts drift to the day's strange, exhausting adventures, the awkward diplomacy over pigs, the boat wobbling like a drunk spider, the soothing herb massage. Somehow, they feel like stitches, binding you to this ancient place. You let out a slow breath, the weight of the city settling around your shoulders. The stars overhead seem to pulse with quiet approval. And maybe, just maybe, you think you might last another day. Dawn breaks slowly over Cahokia, painting the sky in soft shades of pink and orange, like a gentle promise that today will be different, or maybe just more of the same. You wake to the muffled sounds of activity beginning anew, the creak of wooden wheels, the distant clatter of tools, and the rhythmic tapping of stone against stone. Your muscles protest as you rise, but the cool morning air feels like a fresh start. You find your way to the edge of the city, where smoke from early fires curls lazily upward. This time, you're determined to dive deeper into the daily rhythms that keep Cahokia alive. The first stop is the water source, a wide, slow-moving river that glimmers under the rising sun. You watch as women and children gather, filling clay pots and washing clothes. The scent of wet earth mingles with sweet herbs hanging from nearby trees. You dip your fingers into the cool water, letting it run through your hands like a quiet blessing. Nearby, a group of men tend to wooden fish traps. They explain, through gestures and smiles, how these clever contraptions catch the plentiful river fish without the need for constant vigilance. You try your hand at weaving reeds, fumbling until a patient fisherman chuckles and offers a helping hand. It's simple, unhurried work, but the ingenuity behind it humbles you. You imagine how important these fish must be, not just for food, but as a vital thread in Cahokia's complex economy. Later, you follow a narrow path into the woods, where wild berries hang heavy on branches, and the air smells of moss and damp leaves. A guide shows you how to identify edible plants, some sweet, others tart, and a few that must be avoided, unless you want a stomach. That sounds like a thunderstorm. You try a few berries, cautious but curious. Some are unexpectedly delicious, others a bit gritty. The guide laughs and explains, with a wink, that trial and error is part of the education. Historians still argue whether Cahokians practiced a formalized foraging strategy or relied more on casual knowledge, passed down orally. What's clear is that their diet was remarkably diverse, a mix of cultivated crops and wild plants. That kept them resilient. As the sun climbs higher, you're invited to witness a ritual of planting. A group gathers in a cleared field, rhythmically stamping the earth. With soft chants, the ceremony feels intimate, a blend of respect and hope. As seeds are laid into the soil, you join in, planting a tiny kernel of corn. With reverence, it's a small gesture, but it connects you to a cycle that has sustained generations. By midday, the city is alive again with bustle, traders arriving, children playing, artisans shaping clay. You realize that despite the hardships, this is a place of community and innovation. And though you wouldn't last a day here without some luck and maybe a whole lot of herb salve. There's a strange comfort in the simple, deliberate pace.